So recently I was linked to a social media page that was doing basically a rant because somebody who was called out for playing a role for which they didn't have any understanding was apparently, a bad thing. And it sort of went into the reductio ad absurdum line of, well, are we going to get to the point where these paid actors, these professionals who are paid to play another person can only play people who are exactly like them? And I don't even know what to say. No, scratch that, I do know what to say. So first off, this isn't going to be a video about representation or diversity or quotas. No, what struck me the most about this wasn't that I think this was a guy playing a guy in a wheelchair. I don't think it had anything to do with disability in this case. What really struck me about it, though, is this kind of history of professionalism when it comes to this sort of thing. See, when I think of professionals, I think of somebody who is paid to do a job because we have reasonably high expectations that they'll do the job well. And if you're trying to do a drama about somebody in a wheelchair, you should do the job well. That seems like it's not a hard concept. And yet most of the time you see somebody who is not disabled play somebody who is disabled, you see criticism. And from the people who would probably have the best idea of how the portrayal is going. Honestly, I don't think it's that hard to listen to people. But since I don't have any experience with disability, I want to shift this a little bit, because where my mind went was to Mark Ruffalo, the guy who sometime in the last year was getting flack for his portrayal of a trans woman. And his response was basically, don't be mean, we're all still learning. Okay, but you are a professional, as this page has argued, ostensibly. You are somebody who is paid to do a good job. And if you do a bad job, maybe you shouldn't be doing it, or maybe you should lose that job. This doesn't seem to work that way in Hollywood, but generally when somebody does a shitty job, you don't want them to keep doing it. And I'm really not here to argue that you should never, ever, ever play somebody who is outside of whatever demographic you're part of. But in my entire lifetime, I can count the number of non-LGBT people who have played an LGBT person well on one hand. And that's pretty fucking sad. It seems like it can be done, but the number of times it is done well are few and far between. And I think part of that comes down to the nature of acting, because my understanding of acting is that in order to take on the role of a character, you have to have some sort of understanding of it. Otherwise, you're just reading lines. And if you don't understand a role, then maybe you should leave it to the people who do. But, what do I know? Thanks for listening. Amaranth out.